Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for clicking this video, for inviting me into your space. I am all about sharing only goodness and inspiration with you through every video that I make. And I hope that they help you in bettering your body, your mind, and your spirit. But today, we're talking about body. So as you can see in the title, I'll be sharing 2 super simple meals that are great for your gut. But this isn't just any meal prep. Both of these meals are going to be lectin-free and gluten-free. Most people know about gluten and foods that contain gluten and know that it can do some damage to your digestive health, but not everyone knows about those carb-binding proteins called lectins. Lectins are a protein that are found in the skin and the seeds of fruits and vegetables, and they're found in legumes and grains. So it's probably likely that you're creating foods, or you used to create foods, that have lectins sneaking their way in throughout the week. Without getting too much into the science, when we eat foods that contain lectins, it can cause us to not properly digest the foods that we're eating, which can lead to malabsorption of nutrients, as I just said, improper digestion, bloating, brain fog, and so much more. I've cut out lectins from my diet since the beginning of last year, and I knew for some years that I was intolerant to gluten after going to a naturopathic doctor, taking some tests, and seeing the results. But for some reason, I was still feeling bloated, I was still feeling groggy, and I just was inflamed all over a lot of the time after eating my meals. Once I learned about Dr. Gundry's plant paradox research, I cut out all lectins from my diet, and my goodness, it's made a world of difference. I feel it in my skin, I feel it in my energy, in my muscles, but most importantly, I feel it in my gut. I'm no longer heavy and uncomfortable after eating my meals. So before we get into the cooking, I'm going to share 2 main lectin culprits that sneak our way into the meals that we make every single week. The first one are tomatoes and bell peppers. So if you're eating those, if you're chopping them up, you're putting them in salads or putting them in different dishes, you want to make sure that you peel the skin off and you cut out every single one of the seeds to make sure that you digest your food properly. And speaking of peppers, most of us, including me, like to add a little spice or a little kick to our meals, and we turn to red chili flakes to turn things up a notch. Chili flakes are a no-go because they're made out of the skins of peppers. So like I said earlier, lectins are found in the skin and seeds of peppers. So if you want to add a little kick to your meal, you could turn to cayenne pepper, which is made from the flesh of peppers, and it'll add that same kick that you're looking for. And just a quick note, most spices and powders are lectin-free, so they're going to be good for your gut and they're going to be great for your meals. So I can go on and on about foods that are on the yes or the no list for eating gluten-free and lectin-free. But for this video, I'm going to show you 2 meals that are super flavorful. They hit your macros of your fat, your protein, and your carbs, and they won't leave you feeling sluggish after you enjoy them. So if you want more information, you want to see some more recipes, some desserts, or just more meal prep videos, please like this video, leave a comment, subscribe if you want to, so that way you can stay up to date and inspired to keep making food that makes you feel good. So with that, let's get into it. So this first meal I'm making is lunch, and it's an easy favorite and go-to. These are all the main ingredients you'll need. I start off by adding a cup of millet to water and having that boil for about 20 minutes. Millet is the perfect alternative to rice or quinoa because both of those have lectins. Millet is hearty, and you can add all the flavor and seasonings you want to make it complement any meal you're making. As that's cooking, I prep my chicken. As we know, chicken is a great go-to to get a huge load of protein in. I typically only have chicken every once in a while, but when I do, I make sure it's organic and pasture raised without any hormones or any additional toxins or chemicals that our body doesn't need. For this meal, I'll use paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, and salt and pepper, which you'll basically see as the base seasonings for everything in this meal. Then I'll pop this in the oven at 450 degrees for about 15 minutes. Next is the kale. I used to shy away from eating kale. I would always eat kale salads and then get frustrated when I would get bloated after. But turns out one of the best ways to better digest those hearty, leafy greens is to give it some love beforehand. So massaging your kale breaks down the cells of the leaves and makes it easier to digest. All you have to do is toss in some oil and some salt and massage it with your hands for about a minute or two. Then you're left with soft, flavorful kale to use in raw salads or cooked. I like to add a little extra green to my kale dishes, so I'm going to chop up some green onions. These are my absolute favorite. I love the subtle yet unique flavor they add to your dish. And fun fact, I throw them in with my millet from time to time as well. Next, I'll chop up my onions and my mushrooms to begin sauteing. I actually just learned that mushrooms also can be hard to digest for some people. Mushrooms are a fungi, and the fungal cell walls are made up of chitin, which is made up of sugars that are linked together and are very durable. And even though our bodies produce gastric juices that break down the chitin, they don't work so well in humans. So one way to better digest mushrooms is to chew them up super well before you swallow them. Or you may see some undigested chunks that come back out later on. Trust me, I've been there. So I'll toss these in a pot with some olive oil and saute them with some salt and pepper for about 7 to 8 minutes. And ooh, it looks like my millet is perfect right now. So for this meal, I'll season it with some paprika, salt, and pepper. One thing I recommend is adding oil to keep it moist along with some ghee. My new go-to in everything over the past year has been ghee. It's a great additional source of fat if you're not getting too much fat in other areas of your diet. And since it's clarified butter, it's processed in a way that removes the dairy, which is a plus if you want to avoid extra mucus buildup. And yes, stir it really well. Now on to the delicious kale. This came out so good. So like I said, I like to wait for my kale to cook down a little bit before adding in the fresh green onions, because I feel like green onions aren't great when they're cooked for a long period of time. Plus, I don't like to lose that raw, fresh taste of them. And I'll season this with some salt, pepper, onion powder, and garlic powder. Then I'll let the kale cook in the pan for about 7 to 8 minutes until all the water evaporates. I don't know why, but I feel like cutting up my chicken beforehand makes it so much more satisfying and easier when it comes down to eating the meals later. Less time to waste cutting, and you can just dig in and enjoy. So this next meal I'm making is very simple as well. This one will be a small meal because, well, for one, I typically have a bigger lunch and then a smaller dinner in the evenings. But for two, I didn't make a big serving size for this meal prep because of how my week is set up, and I didn't need a full few days worth of dinner. So let's first start by chopping up the broccoli and separating it to be rinsed off really well. Then we'll go right back to slicing the mushrooms. I definitely should have sliced up the whole pack earlier. Also, I didn't mention this before, but I use all organic and pesticide-free fruits and vegetables in all of my meals. That's super important to me. The less toxins we put into our bodies and on our bodies, the better we'll feel. So why waste time cooking foods that are good for your gut if they're not sourced from quality origins too, right? So now let's add the onions and the broccoli to the pan. So here I'll add in just about ½ inch of water and I'll let them cook until the water is evaporated. After a couple minutes, I'll add in my seasonings. So salt first, then some ginger powder, garlic powder, and pepper. The ginger is going to be a perfect complement to a special ingredient I'm adding later to give it that Asian stir-fry flavor we all love. Now time for the shrimp. As you saw earlier, I use all wild-caught seafood. It's better for you, and it comes from a more ethically sourced environment. Then, after the onions and the broccoli are getting to a good point, I'll throw in the mushrooms. Okay, and now for the special ingredient, coconut liquid aminos. Oh my goodness, if you don't know, now you know. It's sweet, it's flavorful, it's savory, it's truly everything. And a little bit goes a long way. But oh man, I just think it's so good, especially on broccoli and mushrooms. So as you can see, not a huge serving size, but it will definitely last me for what I need it for. So there you have it, 2 awesome meals that will have you feeling nourished and satisfied that are amazing for your gut health. Thank you for watching and let me know how these meals work out for you. See you in the next video.